What's up, everybody? My name is Jack Fenty. I am joined today by Sutton Aaron Greenberg, and today we are going to be talking about the MLB returning. So Monday night, the MLB announced that they will be returning to action, or actually I shouldn't say returning, but starting action for the 2020 MLB season. To start, how you guys doing? What are your thoughts on the news?
I'm great. I'm psyched. I'm fired up about it. Baseball's back, baby.
Yeah, it's awesome. Aaron?
Yeah, I'm definitely excited too. I've been waiting for baseball pretty much since the spring and kind of never really understood why it was taking so long, as baseball is like the most COVID-friendly sport, I feel like.
Yeah. Non-contact, yeah.
Non-contact. I mean, even the only real transmission of the same thing they have in baseball is when you throw the ball from like second to first or from the outfield in. And like even then, like it's crazy. I mean, they're going to high five, they're going to play together. So it is what it is when your teammate's sharing a ball. But definitely excited to have it come back. You know, been watching a lot of international soccer, but definitely ready for some domestic sports to be back.
Yeah, for sure. So what we're going to do on this episode is we are going to kind of go over what the MLB announced, what the process looked like leading us to this point, what the process going forward is going to look like, what the season's going to look like. We're going to go over some of our reactions, some of our opinions, and we're even going to give you a little World Series prediction at the end of the show. So, Ross, I'm going to start with you. You are our MLB expert. So, what are your thoughts on the ruling, on the announcement, and can you kind of go summarize what transpired over these last couple of months, because it's been crazy?
Yeah, it certainly has been pretty chaotic over these last few months between the negotiations between the MLB and MLB Players Association. So it's been a whirlwind, that's for sure. But I mean, it's great that we're officially back now. It's kind of a bummer how we're back, because Rob Manfred had to implement the season by himself, which he has the power to do because the two parties agreed that he could do that on March 26th, as long as the season was at least 50 games and as long as the players are getting full prorated pay. So it kind of sucks that the two sides couldn't come to a second agreement more recently to have a little bit more games maybe, or just, you know, not have so much tension between the two sides. But it's awesome that we're back. It's going to be 60 games. The players are going to get full prorated salaries, which is good. We're going to have a universal DH, it looks like, for this year, but probably not next year, which is kind of whack. So, I mean, it's good. I think they're planning on returning between July 24th and 27th. And then they're going to start their kind of brief spring training camps pretty soon. I think on July 1st is when they're going to start those up.
So, Aaron, thoughts on the structure of the return to play?
I think it's good, but it's disappointing for sure. I mean, I think a lot of the things like thrown out in both the offers from the MLB PA and the MLB were really interesting. When you get into like expanded playoffs, when you get into the universal DH for 2 years, I think there was a lot of stuff on the table that could have been really cool, like as a fan. And it hasn't come come to fruition or whatever, but definitely excited. I think 60 games is a good amount. I mean, I think there's too much baseball in general. So I think 60 games could be a really interesting season. It's going to focus on pitching a lot. Pitching is going to be so much more important just because, I mean, I think a lot of teams will just go with 4-man rotations and run it up. But we'll see what happens. I think we have a step in the right direction, but I read on Twitter that the players basically have 5 p.m. till 5 p.m. today to say that they're going to play one and that they're fine with the owner's manual, which includes all of the coronavirus health and safety protocols. So, you know, I'm sort of timid to get really excited, I guess.
Yeah.
Because we have that 5 p.m. deadline today, so we'll see what happens. But I think everything I've heard is that the players are in and it's going to be fine. So hopefully we get it. And I think the structure will be fine for the year.
Yeah, I mean, at this point in the summer, I mean, we're already approaching July. It had to get done. One of my concerns is, and this kind of happened with the Tampa Bay Lightning and the NHL, is the teams are going to be training in their home cities. for example, the New York Mets are going to be training at Citi Field. So they're going to be exposed to not only the players that they're with, but the outside community. And it seems like that's what happened in Tampa Bay with the Lightning. They were training at Amalie Arena, their home arena, but they were also going out to dinner, walking the streets, and the cases in Florida are running rampant right now. So, and I think that's just an overarching thing with all the sports returning, the NBA, NHL, MLS. How can we control the players from going out and getting it not from their teammates? Because you're really not going to be able to control that as much. But avoiding them from going to a restaurant and catching it while they're there. And that's one of the concerns I have for the MLB. What happens if 10 players on the Marlins get it? What happens if Aaron Judge, a star in the league, gets it on the Yankees? Does that shut down the league? What happens if LeBron gets it in the NBA? That's my biggest concern right now. Quick thoughts on that?
I don't really think that's going to be too much of an issue, to be honest. I think the players know that they just have to be smart about it. You know, wear a mask if they're going to be in contact with random strangers in the public.
Yeah.
And I definitely don't think it's going to get shut down if one guy gets it. I think it would have to be really widespread across the league for them to shut down again. I don't see that happening at all. But I mean, we'll see how it plays out. But I mean, even if these guys do get it, you know, they're professional athletes. I really don't think it's going to affect them all that much. You know, if they
totally
have
agree.
the virus, they'll be able to get over it pretty quickly. I think we haven't seen any professional athletes get it and then, you know, be really sick or, you know, not or be in danger or, you know, anything like that. So I'm not too concerned about it, but we'll definitely see how it plays out.
Yeah, I agree for the most part. I think 100% it's on the players. And, you know, I think you have to take into account a lot of these players are probably older. They have families, they have kids. They don't want to get those people sick. And they probably also don't want to have to isolate themselves from those people more than they do. So they're probably going to live their lives a bit more cautiously. But it's pretty crazy. The NWSL is returning this weekend. They have their tournament starting in Utah. And one of their teams actually just had to drop out of the tournament because 10 of their players got coronavirus. So it's just interesting. So, like, will one player, like, let's say Aaron Judge gets coronavirus, I assume he goes on the 15-day DL and it's treated like an injury. And he self-isolates and he does what he's supposed to do, and then he comes back and he plays. Right. I would assume that's the thought process. But I mean, you're totally right. If 10 people on one team get it, it's interesting because you're not going to force a team to play on like a undermanned roster. And so we'll see what happens with that. I assume the rosters will be expanded a little bit, much like right before the playoffs kind of happens, especially most minor league teams are not playing. So your AAA guys, your young AA guys, those guys are going to be available to play. So I think that is an interesting tidbit also, but I do think it could happen. I don't think the league would shut down. I think the team would probably just stop playing.
Now, and to go off of that, Aaron,
go.
Before all this Corona stuff happened, the league already was going to have a 26th man added to the roster anyway, so they'll have one extra guy regardless. And I think that they're planning on doing like taxi squads with minor leaguers to have them like kind of nearby at all times, just so they're ready in case somebody, you know, does go down or whatever. Yeah,
for sure. Aaron, you mentioned the players being away from their families. If you guys, I'm sorry to say it, but you'll never be professional baseball players, but if you're in these guys' positions right now, would you feel comfortable stepping away from your family for 2 to 3 months, self-isolating like in the NBA and the NHL, and not seeing your family? Obviously, you're getting paid for it, especially in the MLB's case. But on a personal level, would you guys be comfortable leaving your family like that? I mean, I'm a family guy, so I don't know if I'd leave. Ross, I'll start with you.
Yeah, go
ahead. I'd probably be okay with it, to be honest with you. I mean, 2-3 months. It's not that.
It's a nice little vacation.
It is. I mean, especially if you've been quarantined with these people for the last like 3 months, you probably want some space. Might be a little healthy there. So I definitely think I would think that a lot of these guys would want to be able to fulfill their lifelong dreams of being baseball players and actually play. as opposed to, sitting out because they can't be without their wife and kids for 2 months or something like that. So I think, a nice little break from them would be nice. And I think these guys want to get paid at the end of the day. They're making millions of dollars. I think that trade-off is probably worth it for them.
Yeah. I think a lot of these guys, they have, especially if their club didn't make the playoffs last year, they've been with their families since like September, October. So, I mean, they've been home for a while, and I think it's not that much different, especially with only it being a 60-game season. Yes, you could be in the same city and not be allowed to be with your family because you're probably going to have to stay in a hotel or whatever. But it's not that different than going on a 2-week Western road stand.
Wow. It is a little different.
It's
2 weeks and 3 months.
Yes, yeah, but I mean, especially in today's world with FaceTime,
it's doable. It's doable.
Extremely doable. They're getting paid. A lot of them are getting paid millions of dollars to do this. And at the end of the day, like, this is part of what they agree to be as professional athletes, is that there could be situations that pull them away from home for long periods of time.
And listen, at the end of the day, no one knew that this was the position they were going to be in, and no one wanted to be faced with this difficult decision.
Yeah.
Moving on. Looking at current MLB rosters, because there's rumors that some players might hold out and not play this MLB season. Say everybody plays. Say the rosters look exactly like they should. Obviously, injuries, current injuries do count. Ross, who's your favorite team to win the World Series right now? And if you say the Yankees, I don't want to hear it.
Well, it is the Yankees, friend. They have the best roster in the MLB, in my opinion. I think it'll probably be Yankees-Dodgers World Series this year. I see the Astros taking a step back because even though there won't be fans there, I still think there's going to be a lot of inner turmoil in the amongst the players in that locker room, and I really hope people are still on their case about them cheating in World Series. So I think the Yankees have a very good shot this year. I don't really think there's too many too many teams that could threaten them on that. So I feel good about the Yankees this year for sure.
The Astros really caught a break. No fans this year.
Yeah, they certainly did,
bad.
but I think the fans are going to give it to them pretty good next year.
People will never forget it.
Yeah,
Never
I think
forget.
fans are really looking forward to letting the Astros players hear how upset they are with them.
Yeah. Aaron, World Series champion?
I think I'm going to go with the Minnesota Twins. I like the Twins all year. Last year, they hit bombs.
They hit bombs.
I think this team, their pitching is strong enough to definitely have them in the conversation for one of the top playoff spots. If their offense comes out and is anything like it was yet last year. And I think in recent years, we've seen sort of like teams that may not have the most talent, that may not be the favorites coming into the season, be really successful in the postseason. They just catch a heat and a vibe and they go off. And I think the Twins could be the guys to do it. I also really like the Rays, but I'm 99% sure that Snell's not going to play. So like they're screwed with him. As good as they are.
Fenty and Aaron, I also have a little bit of breaking news for you.
Here we go. What do we got?
Yeah, so I just got a Twitter notification. I think Joel Sherman had it first, but him, Ken Rosenthal, and Bob Nightingale all said the same thing, that 2 players from the Phillies and 2 staff members have tested positive for corona.
All right, so I mean, and that's the thing. Listen, it's going to happen in every single league and sport. Players are going to test positive. It's going to happen. It's what's the threshold? What says, okay, enough is enough. We have to shut it down. That's the question. And the MLB is going to have to figure that out, as well as all the other leagues. Because, like we said, is it going to be 10 players? Is it going to be 2 players? Is it going to be a star player getting it that says, okay, we're enough? Is the Players Association say, we're done. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how bad is it? I mean, it kind of frustrates me a lot of times when those tweets come out. These people have tested positive. Well, if they're completely asymptomatic, then they basically just have to wait 7 days, get a negative test, wait 7 days, get another negative test, and then they can play again. It's not affecting them physically. So if it's 2 guys, even if it is whatever, Bryce Harper and JT Realmuto for the Phillies, they're without him for 14 days. I mean, but they probably should have been more careful to
I
not
think the concern is not actually for those players' health. It's them, the players, spreading it.
right. And
Even if they're asymptomatic. I mean, we're not experts here, and even the experts have no idea what they're talking about, whether who could spread what and whatever. But I think it's just how, like, the amount of questions that need to be figured out. There's just so many.
yeah, I think at the
yeah.
end of the day, they've sort of shown that, like, if you get it, you're asymptomatic, and then you test twice negative, you're not going to spread it anymore. So as long as when they are put into the self-isolation that's going to be put in for whoever gets it, they do that and they do a good job, I think they end up in a situation where it doesn't really affect the league. It might affect the team. It might be your best player. It might be your best pitcher. It might be Eric Cole, but it's not going to affect the league as a whole even if the two best people from every team got coronavirus at some point in the season and missed 15 games, which they probably.
But that's a lot out of 60.
That's a lot of games, but that's the risk.
No,
right?
I totally understand.
And I don't think the league is going to put the league on pause just because teams are without a couple players. I just don't.
Well, at the end of the day, it's all about money. The league wants the money. The players want the money. So I agree with you. It's just what's going to be that threshold. All right, we only have a couple minutes, and we're going to wrap this thing up. Last question of the day, and I know me and Ross are going to disagree here. He's already shaking his head. Would you want your team winning the World Series this year? Shortened season, no fans, no parade. That's my argument. That's why I wouldn't want my team to win it. Ross, you're a New York Yankees fan. Would you want them winning the World Series this year?
Yeah, because I think the major flaw in your argument here, Fen, is you're kind of going off of the premise that you get to choose what year your team wins the title, which everybody knows you don't. So I think if your team wins this year, you're happy with it regardless, and maybe you have a parade in the spring, which would still be great.
Okay, here's my thing. You're the Chicago Cubs. Take away when they won it a couple of years ago. And you win the World Series this year after waiting, how many years it was, 100 years. Do you really want that? I get
Those
it.
fans are still going to be so excited, fan. Like, even though it's not the same, obviously everybody would rather win it in a year where, it's more normal and there's fans at games and you can have your parade 2 days after. Of course, everybody would rather have that. But those fans would still be so happy to see their team win the World Series, no doubt about it.
Right, and I'm not saying I wouldn't be happy. Don't get me wrong. Like I'm a huge Islander fan. If the Islanders won the Stanley Cup, I would be so happy. All I'm saying is
they won't.
And I guess this is kind of contradicting my first point and the actual question. But I would just much rather them win it after waiting for so many years and going through hell with this team. So many losing seasons, so many top 5 overall picks. I want to be in the arena when they lift the trophy. I want to be at the parade, just going crazy. And it's just not possible this year. It's just not. And to me, and this is just an overarching thought about these leagues coming back, it's just not going to be the same without the fans. I don't care what anybody says. I don't want a counter argument. My opinion, I just can't. It's not the same. It's not the same. Aaron, what do you have? Settle this.
Would I want my team to win the World Series? Yes. I mean, I think it's just a simple question. Like, you want to be a champion. And I think, like, as much of an asterisk as this season is going to have on it in every single sport, it's also going to be an extremely memorable season that people are going to always remember. And that's the thing. The coronavirus season, it's just like all 3 of us are 2020 college graduates.
Yeah.
People are going to remember this year, and they're going to remember these things. So if it is your team, they're probably going to remember that you won. A lot of people remember that the Redskins won the Super Bowl the year of the replacement players when the CBA was out and they had the holdout lockout thing. Well, they brought in secondary players a lot like they did with the refs a couple years ago, and the Redskins went on to win the Super Bowl. And is that a tainted Super Bowl? I don't necessarily think so. But they did it and they won, and that's the thing. It's these things that you remember that team. You're going to remember the team that wins the coronavirus World Series and the coronavirus Stanley Cup.
And me and Ross were kind of debating this over text last night, and he makes a good point. every single MLB team is going through the same thing. They're all playing the same season.
Yeah. The aspect
and
is different than someone cheating or someone striking or someone betting on games. It's completely different. It's completely out of their control, and they're going to all get on the field and do exactly everything they can do to win the World Series, just like they would if it was April, 4th, and we were starting the season like it was normal.
All right, we'll end it on this. Will you, Aaron, Ross, I already know your answer. Are you going to be as excited as you would, though, if your team won the World Series?
For me, probably. I'm a fan of a lot of really, really bad sports teams. So if somehow, some way, the Baltimore Orioles won the World Series, not only would it be like maybe the biggest shock in sports of the last 10 years, we're talking like Leicester City.
Leicester City, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I would be ecstatic, like insane.
Right.
But if I was a Yankees fan and I had won like 29 World Series, would this one really excite me as much as a normal one? Probably not. But I can't really argue that because I have a fandom from the toilet.
All right, well, that's going to do it. Thank you for listening to our first episode on YouTube. You could find us on the internet at nosebleedsports.com. Thank you for listening. Make sure you like, share, follow. I don't even know what you do on YouTube. Subscribe, whatever. Just do it. Help us out. The more subscribers, the better. And we're going to have videos coming to you likely twice a week. You can't hold us to anything. We're all over the place. All right, have a good one, everybody.